Hello, hello. It can feel really strange the first week that we don't talk. And the very, very gorgeous, wonderful student of mine, Jean Michelle Summers, suggested that it would be lovely to still feel like in some way we made contact that first week. So you can thank her for this. I've decided to make sure I send this to you as you start out after we complete our training. And really, this is about getting in place your first week in the business space. Because, yes, you've trained as a celebrant, and that's amazing. But a bit like the movie Field of Dreams, where he thinks if you build it, they will come, it takes a bit more than just building it. So, your work really does begin now. And I wanted us to take away a little bit of the fear, I hope. Also, just give you a few ideas for where to start as you head out on your own. So, some of these are very practical. You may have thought of them already. Some of them I hope will be, hadn't thought of that. I can get that done this week. And also, I am now putting together a whole series of recordings that will cover 5 or possibly even 6 different aspects of running your own business. I know that you're not all going to all want all the modules. So I'm going to make them available in a way that you can buy just 1 or 2. You could buy 4, you could buy all 6, depending on what will be helpful to you. And I'm working on recording those during the month of September. All thanks, as I say, to inspiration from Jan Michelle. Thank you, you special woman. So let's have a look at you in your first week in your own space. Well, the first thing you need to do is to actually go to the office. Now, I can't over egg how important this is. I'm really excited as I record this because this is now the beginning of I've done 2 full. So this is the beginning of my 3rd week in this office space. And this office is a shipping container, was a shipping container, was then made into a site office for a building company not far from here. And when they finished building, they got rid of it. Well, sold it, and we bought it. And it's in a part of our home. I'm very lucky that we have a woodland as part of our property. I know, and I'm incredibly grateful. And now I get to look out through these 2 windows at all the trees around me. And a robin hopped in this afternoon as I was preparing for this video. Um, so I know that office space isn't always going to be a cabin in the woods or a storage container in the woods. But initially for me, it was a part of the sitting room. And we just agreed in our little cottage that really is 1.5 bedrooms, that at the beginning, that was all we could spare here. But I got a screen and I put that, those folding screens that you can dress behind and use to decorate rooms. So I got one of those and we put that up, and it defined this is where the sitting room ends and diner's office starts. And it allowed me to do something that's really important that often we kind of overlook when we work from home. It allowed me to have everything in one place. And it meant I didn't lose things, or at least not as much. Because when we're constantly packing up the office at the end of the day and putting it away, that's when we will mislay important information, or we'll forget to save something. Or so if you can do that, find a space. It doesn't have to be a big space, but find a space that you can dedicate to being your office. And I actually, even though I work from home, and yes, I have days where I say not engaging with it today, but I get up every day, do my hair, put on something nice to wear, and get myself to the office. And by doing that, I create a routine, which actually, when we start working for ourselves, is really important. So that's step number one to do in your first week. Establish where your office is and then get a picky of it. You know, the day I shared on Instagram that I'd moved into this office space, I got the most gorgeous, not only level of engagement, but lovely private messages from people saying, I'm so thrilled that you shared that. I'm working towards my own version of a cabin in the woods. So get that done, number one. Now, number two is going to be involving potentially spending some money if you have not already got a good computer. Now, when you say good computer nowadays, God, I always hate saying nowadays because it makes me sound old, but in the current environment, um, a good computer means different things to different people. You do not need some level of processor that could fly you to the moon. You are not going to be using your computer for computer games. And if you are, I strongly encourage you not to, because that's one of the easiest ways for people to hack you. So have a separate computer that is purely about your work. A simple computer will do. You want a reasonably fast processor. Storage is not as important as it used to be. So yes, you want RAM, which is random access memory, because that's what it opens and uses while you're doing things, to help do that quickly. But storage, with most of us now, most of our storage is on the cloud. So the computer itself doesn't have to have, terabytes of space for you to store things. So consider, yes, I need something that's good, but what I mean by good is, can I type and send scripts from it? Is it a good enough system that I can use something like Canva to design pretty cover sheets and even possibly my own, branding and stationery? Is the screen that comes with it big enough for me to look at that during a day and not get a headache from it? We often discover that most people look at our websites on a mobile phone, but actually trying to create your website from a very small screen is really hard. So make sure your screen is big enough. And then you have to think about, does it have all the things I also need access to? So can I do my social media from it? Can I schedule from it? In other words, does it have a proper keyboard and all the functions that come with a PC as opposed to a portable device? And you may want to look at the same time, investing in a printer. Now, I'm resisting as much as I can printing anything at the moment, but we have to print scripts. So look at how complex does it really need to be. You can get a really good inkjet printer for well under £100 at the moment. But what you also want to check is it cheap, because the ink gets used up really fast. So yes, a good computer is going to be a necessity for you to run your business. But that does not by any means have to mean thousands of pounds. It should be a few hundred. And you can also often get really good reconditioned systems with the support that goes with that from the company that reconditioned them. So ask around, who do you know who works from home? Where did they get their computer from? And are they happy with it? Well, are they happy with the support that they've had when there has been a problem with it? Think about those sorts of things. I actually often have gone the route I did with this computer. I buy my computer from PC World. Why do I do that? Well, because there is a branch within an hour's drive of my home. And when you're in West Wales, that's a big deal. You'd be surprised. I drive 45 minutes to my nearest proper supermarket. So an hour's drive to somewhere where I can physically go and see someone and take my computer matters. But the other thing I have genuinely found with them is that their help desk support is brilliant. They're not patronising, and they have a system which allows them to log in remotely, look at what's happening to your computer and help you put it right. And I've always found when I need help, they have been able to resolve it pretty much immediately. So consider all those things, because this is where it's worth investing a little bit of money at the start of the business. Third thing, get established as a business. Now, what does that really mean these days? First of all, Companies House is for limited companies. I am not qualified to tell you whether or not you need to be a limited company. But what I will tell you from my own experience, having had a limited company for my husband's business, is it's an enormous amount of paperwork. There would be no advantage for me personally as a celebrant or celebrant trainer to being a limited company. I am a sole practitioner. I am self-employed. And what you need to do is register as self-employed. Go on to the gov.uk website and search registering as self-employed. It explains it really well. There is a process you have to go through. You probably are going to want to start paying national insurance contributions. Now, you only have to pay them when you reach a certain level of income. And again, I can't tell you what that is. I'm not qualified, but also it changes. So when you're watching this will dictate the amount that is. But there's a point at which you have to start making contributions. I would also say it's well worth exploring setting up a business bank account. Now, that could be in your own name still, but make it really clear it's a business account. There are lots of online business banking that will, as long as you can show them, look, I own the website with this business name, I've issued an invoice, or I've done an advert, or I've paid a bill in this name. And of course, as we're mentioning later, it's registered on the internet. You can see it on Google. They will let you open a business bank account. It looks really professional, but what it also does is it helps you realistically, honestly say, what did I spend and what did I make as a business this year? You can look at it on a daily basis and say, am I having a good month? Am I on target? Am I spending a bit more than I should be? Has that person paid me? It helps you keep on top of your accounts. And what it will also do is help you create your accounts for your year end, which you will need currently in the UK to do in January at the latest for each year that ended the previous April. I would encourage you to do it as soon as you can. But again, I'm not qualified to comment on those things. So you need to register as self-employed. You need to see if you're paying national insurance or not. Consider having an accountant if you're not really comfortable with accounts. But most people, not me, because I have several businesses, so I have an accountant. Most people just put through their own self-assessment every year. I cannot possibly comment on whether that's the right thing for you. You will decide. But if you're at all nervous, talk to an accountant about what it would cost to do a very basic check of your submission and then to submit it for you. Number 4, you need to register for GDPR. Now, if you've done the training with me, we've probably talked about this, but I'm going to remind you. This is because we're keeping confidential information about people. You know, I often joke, some of the things I get told preparing for a funeral, or when I'm getting to know a couple for a vow renewal or a wedding, I could take out a mortgage or open a bank account because we know an enormous amount about them. And that means we have to be really careful how we keep those records. So going on to the gov.uk website and signing up for GDPR is all well and good, but now you actually have to do something about that. So I'll give you some examples. You may notice in my new office the absence of that very large filing cabinet that was in my office that's in the house, which, by the way, is no longer reserved for me as an office. It's already got a new purpose. But what it does have in the corner is my large grey filing cabinet. And that's because that room is lockable. It's in a house, not a storage container in the woods. And it contains all of the completed questionnaires, notes from meetings, anything that could be used that isn't really secure if I keep it out here. Everything that's out here is either available in the public domain or is on my computer and locked behind several layers of passwords. So GDPR is actually doing, not just signing up for. Think about where you're going to store client information. How are you going to keep it safe? Have you got a lockable, heavy storage container for things? Have you got a filing cabinet like me? Have you got a set of drawers which is properly lockable, that's in a room that can have a key turned? We need to be really responsible with these records. And anything you're keeping on a computer, make sure it's in a folder where you have a password to access that folder. Now, another thing it's really important to do in our first week is to get the business listed online. And really, the two key at the moment are Google and Bing. Bing is Microsoft's version of Google, really. It's nothing like as popular, but people use it. And there are loads of search engines. So it wouldn't hurt every day to do a kind of, what are people searching on and can I list my business on them? Google is a key one to do, and it may very well want to verify you. So it might involve doing part of your registration, and then it's going to send you a postcard through the post with a code. And now it knows you really are registering a business that's where you say it is. And I'm really pleased they verify us. It's important. But having your business listed on Google is important. So go to Google and look at, how do I list my business? I'm not going to talk you through the process. You can do that, and it's really straightforward. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Then I'd like you to think about becoming a member of the AOIC. Now, we talked about this probably more than once during your training. I want you to know I don't get anything from them for recommending them. I get nothing. It's not about that. You, however, do get something for working with me because they have made me one of their recommended trainers. I'm really grateful for that. I think there's 5 of us in the UK, and we're all really different, and we all offer really different training, which means there's something for everybody, I hope. But as a result, you get £50 off your first year's membership. I believe there's somewhere on the application form to tell them I did my training with, and it will give you the discount. If for any reason that doesn't work, there's also a way to contact Kim, our incredible, the secretary of the association. She's amazing, Kim Franklin, and she will tell you how to make sure you apply the discount. I encourage you to do that, not just because it makes you a member of a recognised association, which gives you credibility, but also because it gives you just about the best personal and public liability insurance as a celebrant that I was able to find. It also gives you regular CPD, continuous professional development sessions. We get at least one a month. And if you can't make the time they're on, they are recorded and they're in a members only area. So I highly recommend the membership. There's also an annual conference. There are regional groups where you can get support from other members. And I genuinely have found this profession full of people who are happy to collaborate and support each other. And I hope you will find the same. I'm going to have a sip of tea. So the next thing I'd love you to do in week 1 is to start making use of that database we created. Do you remember when we looked at the circle of people you're going to be working with? The fact it isn't just you. And I said, start finding out who's in your area, who works in this field. And that's both in your funeral and wedding celebrant work. Well, I'd like you to start going and having a look at some of them. This is not going and meeting funeral directors. They should not be the list of people you want to go and meet. Instead, I'd like you to go and meet the other people in the circle. And the way that you get the introduction to do this, so that it isn't, oh God, why would I want to meet with this celebrant? No, I'm going to be writing an article or a blog to share with my future clients or my couples or the families I work with. And in that blog, I'd love to share some information about you and your business. Could I come and meet you so that I can write an article about you, please? And if they say, well, why would you pick me? Or if they're a bit cynical, to be honest, if they're not very nice, I just would say, do you know what? Don't worry, I'll call the other florist in town. But if they are a bit cynical and you really want to pursue it, say to them, genuinely, I would love to help talk about you. And I know that as small businesses, we rely on other businesses to help promote us. The reason I want to talk about you is because somebody else has told me you're really good at what you do. Or I've seen your flowers at a wedding, or I've seen your flowers at a funeral, whichever is the truth. And start doing that. Put one business in per week that you would like to go and meet. And the reason for writing that blog, well, first of all, it starts to show other people in the profession that you know it's not all about you. And you know how I feel about that. But it also starts to show potential clients that you understand who else works in the industry, that you perhaps are somebody who's connected to other good businesses. And of course, this is how you become connected. So I really encourage you, 1 a week in your diary, who are you going to go and connect with or meet or visit that you would then write about or mention or talk about in a short video and then share on your own blog or in your own social media. I want you to remember that writing is something that you need to do every day. And if you get that in your diary now and schedule it as a daily practice, you're going to find it's become a really good habit by the time you're very busy. If you leave this and wait until you're busy, it'll never happen. So start to work this out for you. When actually is a really good time of day for me to do some writing? Do I like to come into the office and start my day with it? I personally do. I love doing that. It reminds me why I love doing what I do. But you may like to do it just before lunch. You might like to do it with your first coffee of the day. I encourage you to make it a morning practice if you can, because otherwise life happens and it might not. So schedule in your 20 minutes a day of writing and maybe consider for the first week and then continuing every other week for your first year, give it a theme for the week. You may be surprised what you begin to create over a week if you have a topic or a theme to focus on. Now, if you're going to be doing weddings or vow renewals, I'd like you to put some in your calendar for next year. Yes, I know you're thinking, well, that's the whole point of all of this. But the thing is, these are ones you haven't actually got yet. This is going to be woo-woo for some of you, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I am a great believer that what we focus on becomes our truth. And when I started working as a celebrant in West Wales, where everybody said to me, oh, well, if you can't speak Welsh, you're just never, ever going to get any work. Thanks for the encouragement, folks. By the way, it wasn't true. But everybody was telling me all the negatives and it's going to take you forever. And I decided I was going to focus on creating my version of a reality that would become my focus and therefore had a better chance of becoming my truth. And I looked at June, July, August, and September of the following year. And I decided which of the Saturdays I would most like to have a really wonderful wedding. And I wrote in my diary, wedding today. Now, I'd love to say I waved a wand and I got up the next day and they were all booked. That's not quite how it works. But what it did do was it allowed me to start saying, okay, so I'm going to start planning as if I do have weddings, one in for each month next year. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share a social media post that says, I have availability for the following 4 dates next summer. Now, immediately that sounds like, oh my goodness, she's only got 4 dates. I didn't actually say they were the only dates I had, but it implies that I'm already busy. But what it also says is next summer, 4 dates. Gosh, I'd love one of those to be with you. So think about setting 4 dates for next year when you would love to be doing some ceremonies. They don't have to be weddings. Maybe it's a vow renewal or a naming ceremony. Maybe you'd love to be doing some commitment ceremonies. Now, funeral celebrants, that might feel a bit more weird to you. Why would I want to put, oh, yippee, I'd like to be doing a funeral on Friday? But here's the reality. If we don't decide how many would I like to do per month and which days would I ideally like to do them, then we're very unlikely to create that. So when I started training celebrants, and I knew because of my health that I had to reduce the number of live ceremonies I committed to, I decided I would not take students on a Monday or a Friday. I did that because I wanted Mondays to always be available to families. And I do speak to families during the week, but they're often catch-up phone calls. But Mondays and Fridays, I am available to spend some time, to actually go and spend time with a family if that's what's needed. Likewise, on a Monday and a Friday, I know if I'm asked, can you take a ceremony on? If it's a Friday, I can almost always say yes. Occasionally, I will take a midweek ceremony, but most of the funerals I take now are Fridays and Mondays. And here's the thing, that actually works really well where I live, because very often here in West Wales, if we're doing a ceremony and there are people who don't live in Wales that are going to come, Friday is the best possible day to do that, because people will come up, they will have the ceremony and they will stay and go home on Saturday or Sunday. And it hasn't had a massive impact on the working week. Likewise with a Monday, sometimes we'll have a service on a Monday, people kind of come up on the Sunday, we'll do the early service on a Monday morning, 9 a.m. and by lunchtime they're on the road home. So it's worked well. And I defined that and said my students will be Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, and my funerals will be Mondays and Fridays. And I actually have on a Friday ceremony day, and it tends to fill up really quickly. So focus on when are going to be my ceremony days, and I'm going to get those blocked in my calendar. And apart from anything else, when you're making an appointment to visit a local business and they say, well, could you do it on Friday? You're going to say, oh no, that's my ceremony day. Now, here's some ideas of what not to do in your first week, or possibly even your first month, or even 3 months. Do not spend a fortune on a website. Do not spend a fortune on a website. If you are not going to tackle it yourself, and lots of people choose not to, that does not make you a failure. You are going to focus on your Celebrant business. So if building a website is not something you think yippee about, and trust me, most people don't, then pay somebody to do it. But you want something really simple. You do not need all singing, all dancing, whistles and bells. You need something that works, and you want a website that does have a blog. And PS, you're going to be writing those blogs and posting them. So whoever is building your site needs to show you how to do that. As part of their quote, say to them, I would like you to show me how to update this myself and how to regularly post blogs, please. Do not spend loads of money on stationery. I know it's pretty, it's beautiful, strokey, I get it, but just don't do it, because you're going to change what you think you've called your business probably within the first 4 months. And it may only be a tweak. It may be that you find an image where you go, oh, that's what I was really looking for. Or somebody will say, did you know the website blah, blah, blah is available? And you'll go, oh my goodness. So you will be changing it. Don't spend a fortune on beautiful, clever stationery at the moment. You really don't need it. I still don't have headed paper. I just print it off. I have created it myself. It's there as a template, and I print it if I actually need to put a cover page. Things like Canva are incredibly helpful. The one thing I would say, particularly if you are a funeral celebrant, is get some business cards done. And yes, pay a little bit more and only get 100 or 50, because as I say, you may well change them. You can get the 500 once you're more established. And do not get an advert in a local publication or charity sponsorship of a local something or other. When you register as self-employed, you're suddenly on radars of people. And I know we shouldn't be, but that's the way this works. There are people who literally sit and trawl through who registered to be self-employed this week and what are they doing? Oh, let's put them on that list that we sell to telemarketing companies. And you will get asked all kinds of nonsense. Will you support the benevolent fund for, pickled gherkins? There are lots of them in your area who are homeless. And you just don't know what's real and what isn't. So at the beginning, the answer is no. No, you don't have to explain. As my daughter tells me beautifully, no is a full sentence. Can we count on your support for the blah, 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 charity? No. This is my first year in business, but thank you for calling. I wish you luck. And you put the phone down. They're not your friend. It's not personal. Just don't go there. Yes, I know I sound like I've been there, haven't I? Yeah, I did it. Do. Last couple of do's and then we're done. Do set up social media accounts for your business. And I'm going to say stick to 1 or 2. Now, if you're a wedding celebrant and you trained with me, you know that technically Pinterest is not social media, but I'm going to say count that as one of your accounts. And regularly, every blog you write, regularly put posts on Pinterest for it so that people can find it. Again, go back to the resources. If you're not sure how to do all that, I have shared in our resources my Pinterest for celebrants presentation. Take a look. It's really useful. And the other one, well, where are the people you're hoping to work with hanging out? Are they Instagrammers? Are they TikTokers? Are they tweeters? I don't think anybody is anymore, bless. Where are they? Facebook. There's no point in spending time and effort posting on a social media platform that the people you want to work with aren't using. But it is very important to have at least one and to post regularly and consistently. Now, if the idea of posting something every day just makes you go, ugh, then make it twice a week, but do it every week on the same 2 days. We need to be consistent. That's the key. Pardon me. That's the key thing with social media. And then and this is a really big one for our first kind of few months in business, to be honest, do keep a note of how you're spending your time. And this is not for me. You're not sending this in as a piece of homework. So you're not trying to impress anybody. You don't want to look good. This is for you. How are you spending your time? Because I learned quite quickly when I started working for myself, I can do busy with everybody else, right up there in the top 10. But doing busy and being busy are different things. There is no point in saying, I'm going to the office now for the day and spending 6 hours at a desk, being more and more depressed because no work is coming in. In the first few months of your business, you're going to find some days you really only need to do an hour or two. Some days it is going to be a whole day because you're going out and you're meeting somebody, or you're taking some extra training, or you've committed to get through this book this week. You know, there will be lots of things you can do, don't forget, that are part of growing and building your business. But keep a note of what that was. How long did you spend setting up your profile on Pinterest? Write it down. And at the end of the week, as though you were having to, submit a timesheet, break it into categories. Where have you really invested your time this week? Has it been on marketing activities? Has it been on building templates for letters? Where have you put that time? It's important that you keep monitoring that, because it's really easy to start knocking ourselves and saying, oh, I'm probably putting my time into all the wrong things. But actually, if we can look at where we're putting our time, we'll start to notice patterns. Isn't it funny? When I was writing a blog every week and sharing it on LinkedIn, because that's where most of my coaching work was done, that suddenly people started engaging with me and wanting to book me to talk about it. It's worth noting I didn't become successful at this overnight. It took work and effort. What was the work and effort so that I can keep doing it? And I would like you to remember the last thing I'm going to share today. We may have stopped working together on our weekly basis, but I'm very much still here for you. I make a connection one-to-one with everybody I work with through the Academy. And I did that because you really genuinely all mattered to me. So please never think, oh, I wish I could just ask Dinah this. At the end of this video, I'm tagging on a link to Calendly. And only those of you who have trained with me get this link. And it's a 10-minute coffee and a chat. You can use this up to once a month, but forever, but up to once a month. You can book into my diary a 10-minute, and it will be 10 minutes. You can book in a 10 minutes with me to say, can we just talk this through? Can I just run this past you? I will always be here to support you. And those 10 minutes are free, by the way. So good luck, keep going. You can watch this back as many times as you like. And Jean-Michel, thank you again, you amazing woman, for inspiring this video. Bye for now.